Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Avatar news update video. This is going to be the New York Comic Con 2022 edition. So straight away, the podcast panel, the Braving the Elements podcast from yesterday, no news. It was a complete non-event. The only notable thing that happened was that they were actually streaming that one for free, but the stream only started 50 minutes into the panel. So if you kept the thing up the entire time, you got to see maybe the last 10 minutes and missed everything else. And obviously most of the last 10 minutes was just the kind of trivia at the end. But my understanding is that there was no news at that whatsoever, and so we don't need to spend any time on it. What just finished about 20 minutes ago was the publishing panel with Magpie Games, Abrams Books, and Dark Horse Comics. This was the one we were actually looking forward to because it actually, I think, properly had the potential for news. But just before the panel went live, I did happen to find this online. The cover for the upcoming Little Golden Book, I Am Aang. So in one of my previous updates, I covered the description for this. It's going to be a pretty small 24-page book, but it does have new art, and we get a look at it here. It seems pretty nice. Again, I think the book's going to be $6 or something like that. So it seems like a fun little thing to get if you are a collector, if not just to see the new art and see how they tell Aang's story in a few pages. Very much aimed at kind of kids, younger readers, but Little Golden Books I believe are quite collectible, so there is that. We had two people live tweeting the panel. Of course, notable fan artist Kachi95, and then also this account, Murphy's Multiverse. Both were live tweeting during it. So we actually had pretty good coverage of this because I don't think the companies themselves were posting anything, of course. So the first thing to happen here in terms of news, I'm just going through it here by tweets because I was live tweeting during it. And it's so difficult to organize it because fundamentally, I would say there was not really that much news. There was sort of updates to a lot of things, but very little that was fundamentally new. I thought it was an okay showing, but nothing too great overall. So we got the public release date for the Avatar Legends role-playing game. So this is what they teased in the last Kickstarter update, but now we get it for sure. We get the idea here that the release date is going to be January 25th, 2023. And as you can see here, like the Kickstarter says, pre-orders will open October 12th. So that I think tells you that the Kickstarter is very much planned, that pretty much most people should have their books by January. This way they can avoid the potential annoyance from a lot of people about hey, why did someone who only got into this a year after the Kickstarter get their book before I did? I think they're just trying to avoid that, and that's why the date is actually relatively far into the future. But in an update we didn't know about before that was exclusive here. There was little things like this. Abrams Books has been directly collaborating with Avatar Studios since its formation between Kyoshi and Yang Chen, and that's basically the way we know about things. And yeah, that's just the idea of the thing with Avatar Studios is that we won't see any of the animation projects probably until 2024 or 2025. We might hear stuff about them in 2023. But Avatar Studios will have involvement in all of the Avatar content that comes out. And so that's what I think that kind of delay over the last sort of year and a half has been with a lot of the comics and stuff like that. It's been sort of setting up to get to this stage now where hopefully we can have a more consistent release on Avatar Comics, Korra Comics, a plan further into the future for the novels than just doing them one at a time. That is the organization aspect of Avatar Studios that does seem to be in place. They did talk about patterns in time here because they had two of the creative team on the panel. But again, I just recommend checking out my early non-spoiler review because I give more detail about the book than they talk about during the panel. So that is there to watch if you want it. This one, as you can see here, I posted about because I just thought it was a little like funny, and that like, okay, that's the creative reason why it happened. But most people want more Kyoshi. That's the reality of the situation. I don't think there are many people who are just like, yeah, I'm glad they only did 2 Kyoshi books. You know, they ran the risk of running it into the ground. I don't think so. So the idea, obviously, is that Kyoshi's only like 18 at the end of Shadow of Kyoshi. She lives to be 230 years old. Like, there is room to work with if you want to tell some stories. And you don't even have to write around that many things because we don't know that many events from Kyoshi's life. So, bit of a weird statement, but I get the idea of, for teenage Kyoshi, yeah, most of her story probably is done. Okay, this one here, we only get context for this after the panel ended, but what this image is, my understanding of this is that this is basically sketch sort of concept stuff from the artist of Skyscrapers. That is the young Asami and Yasuko's story from Patterns in Time. The artist on that story is Sam Beck. So I believe that this is Sam Beck art. I don't know if that's 100% confirmed, because again, the live tweets, and they obviously, you can see here, it doesn't say whose art it actually was. They did have Alexandria Monique at the panel, but given that they only give a slight update on the Korra comic trilogy that she's the artist for later on, it would be weird that they showed her concept art here. The other confusing aspect is, of course, that, well, this is like book 4 era, you know, post-comic Korra and Asami. And we only really see that in the Genora Korra and Asami story, which is done by different creators. So there was that sort of confusion of just like, okay, it's nice art, but why are you showing us it here? I think a lot of people, when they first saw this, thought that it was concept stuff ahead of the new Korra comic trilogy. But as we'll see, even that has changed. It seems like information on that has changed quite a bit. Then there's this, Magpie Games actually having the most news during this thing. The official online toolkit, so these are the online tools to help you play the game more effectively, are going to be online soon. Then there's going to be this starter set for Avatar Legends, which is also coming. And that seems to be, as you can see here, okay, it looks like you get dice, you get adventure booklets, you get the rules. So, okay, so my understanding of this is that this is going to be like a pared down version of the contents. So instead of just giving you the core book with all that information and stuff like that, this is just, hey, do you want to play the game? Here's everything that will help you play the game. So you get physical stuff, is seemingly, I guess, instead of like just the full-on books. They give you as much of the book as you need. That's why they have a thing here that just seems to be the rules booklet, rather than there's a lore section in the actual core book and then a whole giant rules section. So that's an interesting one. I think it makes a lot of sense that instead of you having to buy 2 pretty big books, you could just get this if you do want it, and it comes with some kind of physical stuff. So I think that's a good idea to have. Then I wasn't expecting them to say anything about this, but I guess it was getting to that point. The new Republic City supplement is coming in summer 2023. So these are the extra books that they said right at the start of the whole project that we plan to then move on and do a Republic City book as well as a Spirit World supplement to the game. So the first of them was the Republic City one, previously scheduled for, I guess, in or around now, but has obviously now been moved into summer 2023 because of all of the delays. And I think all they said about this, like the tweet there says, this is apparently going to be the sort of most modern version of Korra that we see. So I get... Yeah, because the core book for the Korra era covers all the way up to and including Runes of the Empire. So I'm guessing this will have some slight story stuff set after that, and will just show us that, hey, we're showing you Republic City at the furthest point into the future. again, it's pretty exciting. There's some new art there, of course. We'll see what they do with this, because the thing with all the Magpie news is that I'm guessing we will get a bigger update when they give their October update, which should be next week, should be next Wednesday, because I'm guessing they didn't do one this week because they were at New York Comic Con and it was a little too early in the month. So we should be getting the October update next time out, which will have to cover all the shipping details for like international and stuff like that, what the true estimates actually are, show off pictures of stuff if they have it to show off, and then go over all of this stuff. Like they have, like I just went over, they have the date for everyone to be able to pick up the book. They'll have to, I guess, talk about this and hopefully explain what way it's going to work. Will it be another Kickstarter for this on its own? Or will it be a general Kickstarter that includes this and the Spirit World book, but maybe they don't have a lot to say about the Spirit World book right now? We'll see. Or else they might just do it as an extra sort of add-on thing. We should get information on that a little later on. Then, they did show off some new info. So the Outcast is going to be one of the new sort of like, what do they call it, classes within the game that you can do. So that's pretty nice. And then some new, I suppose, official art here. So Varric and Julie, Bo Lin doing some lava bending there. And then, yeah, Mako, Police Officer Mako. So very nice to see all that stuff. A more Korra-focused expansion here, of course. Then we got the teaser for the Azula Comic. So they gave an update on it. Summer 2023, that's what they said at San Diego Comic-Con. And they said two things about it. First, Azula must confront her past. So that's the one-line tagline they're using for the story of Azula in the Spirit Temple. So they showed off 2 pages here, not colored. So again, it's Peter Wortman art. So it's Azula in a tent in a forest. Some facial expressions. She goes over and finds a mask on a tree branch, picks it up and burns it. So the obvious idea is that, one, when is this set? They didn't say it. Specifically, it was mentioned here, as you can see over here. I don't know, I think my face is covering it up, but yeah, they didn't mention the timeline of this over here. So I'm guessing this might be set after Azula runs away at the end of the search, meaning she'd be still in or around the forest, the Forgetful Valley or whatever. And this would also explain potentially why there is a mask like in the area, because the masks are of course used in Love Amongst the Dragons, which goes on in the town, of course, nearby. I don't immediately recognize this mask as being any of the ones from the Search, Love Amongst the Dragons that we've seen. It is certainly not, for instance, like the Blue Spirit mask or anything like that. So we'll see what it is, but clearly the idea is that Azula remembers this in some way and it reminds her of that situation and it causes this issue, which is an interesting thing to do, given that you actually had an Azula Zuko bonding moment in the Search, in a way nicely reflecting on the past and the fact that they went to see the plays and they used to act out the plays. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with that. Is this actually set later? And so that more explains why Azula's opinion has changed, but we're not really sure. The other person live streaming mentioned this, that apparently, I guess, one of the people at the panel said it. I'm guessing this must have been Cara O'Neill who said this. Will this be Azula's redemption? We'll find out. So that is a major teaser for this, that they're kind of implying that this, I'm guessing this won't full on tell us if they like do the full redemption or not. I'm guessing this will tell us more about the trajectory of the character. That's what I've always felt that this is going to do. That they'll set the stage for, I'm guessing, that the ATLA movie will probably have to at least address where Azula eventually gets to, and so this book will have to set the stage for that. That's what I'm thinking will sort of happen here. But anyway, we'll move on. Then, this is probably the most significant update here. There is another trilogy of Korra comics on the way. The first story will be focused on Mako. That's all they can say for now. So this is interesting because this is what everyone was waiting for. This was the thing people most wanted an update on. So we didn't get a cover or really any visuals to go with this. But seemingly, we are now in this weird, confusing situation where we don't really know what they meant by this. Because I think everyone took what was said from the San Diego Comic-Con panel, that when they said Korra Comic Trilogy, that they meant a Turf Wars, Runes of the Empire-like comic, where it would be title of comic part 1, title of comic part 2, title of comic part 3. Not that it would be a one-shot comic trilogy. Whereas it actually seems like the people in the panel and the way it was said gives the impression that it more actually is a trilogy of like individual one-shot comics that will focus on a specific character, and that the first one is going to be Mako focused. So the question here is like, where does this put all the information that we have? Because what we had was that they said at SCCC, Kiku Hughes is going to be the writer and that Alexandria Monique is going to be the artist. But does that mean just for the Mako story, or does that mean for all three? And what's going on here? Ultimately, what I will say is that I'm excited for a Mako solo focused story. If that's what this means, that it is a Mako one-shot, and not that the first of the new trilogies will focus on Mako. I do interpret this right now as being Mako one-shot, and then we'll get other character one-shots going forward. I think that's good. Mako, I think of all the main characters, was the character who probably most needed something like this. Asami at least gets a backstory little moment in Patterns in Time. Mako isn't even included in Patterns in Time whatsoever. So, of everyone, he absolutely needed it the most. I think Asami probably should get one of the other two character one-shots. And then I guess they'll probably give it to Bolin. But I'd maybe prefer that maybe like a Genora get it or something like that. But if you do that, it does mean that like how much of an opportunity is there for like Korra to be involved in any of these that much? Of course, she's going to be friends with all these key characters, so she'll be there and thereabouts. But, you know, it's the idea that people, I think, wanted the proper Korra comic trilogy, the potentially like let's go to the Fire Nation story that everyone has wanted for a long time. But what seems to be the case is that the whole reason I think we switched from, like, we stopped that imbalance with Avatar comics and have moved on to the Katara and the Pirate Silver, Top by Falls Metal Bending Academy Suki Alone thing, one-shot trilogy, is because we know the first movie is going to be ATLA focused. And it's going to be set in that gap between Avatar and Korra, which is covered up to imbalance. And so I think they don't want to have this confusing thing where they're developing a movie in that timeline at the same time as they're also doing comics at another slightly different stage in that timeline. That they stopped those specifically to switch to this style, and I think we're just seeing that also now happening with Korra. Would I necessarily take this as direct confirmation that one of the movies that is coming out is going to be Korra? Maybe, maybe not, but it's probably a good sign that if they're not going to do proper Korra comic trilogies that expand the story after Runes of the Empire, it probably does mean they're working on a Korra project for Avatar Studios, which is pretty good. Confirmation here, no update on second Yang Chen novel. Now, I'm not sure if they specifically like said we don't have anything to say about it, or if it was just that nothing was said. But Abrams' books apparently really didn't have much to say at this thing at all. And then, like I said here, someone asked, and they were specifically addressing the new Korra trilogy, so I think it will be 3 one-shot comics. That was the reading in the room of the situation, and I think that does roughly make sense. Other little things. Beast of the Four Nations, still nothing has been said about this book. I believe it was May last year where this book was revealed through official like comic, solicitation sources. It's up on Previews World. loads of websites have it up for like kind of pre-order, but most of them don't really anymore. No update on this at all. Really weird situation to be in. And then I just thought this was sort of notable that one of the updates mentioned that this was specifically said that comics and novels will be the main source of universe expansion for now, basically until the Avatar Studios projects actually begin to come out. So it was weird to see a pretty weak performance from all of the key publishers at this event, where we didn't really get that many updates, and there, in a way, technically wasn't really any new announcements at this one for the most part. There's that sense of like, yeah, we've known this because it's been the case since 2014 that the comics have been the only source. The problem has been that it's felt like most of the last, say, 2 years, they almost haven't even been there at all. So the fact that, especially Abrams, like gave no update about really the future of what's going on, was very disappointing in my eyes. And key books from Dark Horse not really being talked about. I think they probably did what they could with the Azula reveal, in that they're probably not quite ready to put it up for pre-order yet, where it has like the full description, but that probably will happen in the next couple of weeks. I wouldn't be at all surprised if very soon, you know, we see the listing for that go up on like Penguin Random House or whatever, and we get the description. We probably are still a few months away from getting that for the next Korra comic, but I think that's a bit of a problem, is that they basically said, oh, we can't say much about the Korra comic. But what they did say ended up confusing people and arguably leading to disappointment from fans rather than excitement necessarily. And it seems to be this sort of compounding thing of like, you went very vague at SDCC, now in a way even more vague here, and most people still aren't entirely sure about what exactly is coming. And especially given that this is like Korra Comics returning after a very long time, and after what seems to be a near announcement like a few years ago of another trilogy that I guess got cancelled in some way because of Avatar Studios, and now we're having to kind of start again. It's not a good situation to be in, where we don't know if we're getting one-shots or a proper trilogy. I like I said, I think you kind of have to read it as more one-shots, and that one-shots are the thing that makes sense here, given that the kind of meaty material will probably be made into movies and TV shows more than anything. So, yeah, that's where we are with New York Comic Con. So yeah, the podcast panel, obviously, like I said earlier, didn't really have anything. This had updates, but really didn't feel like they were quite at the stage where they're ready to do anything yet. I don't know if it's just that a lot of these companies are waiting to do a more official announcement later down the road. But the problem with that is that if you have an announcement that you're maybe prepared to make in, say, like a month or two, most of the time, we as the fandom find this stuff early. That I wouldn't at all be surprised if, theoretically, I just happened to, in like a couple of weeks' time, look on Edelweiss and, oh, what do you know? Look there. There's the listing for, like, Azula in the Spirit Temple. Why couldn't you have just given us this, like, now? Oh, look, there's the listing for Yang Chen Book 2. Why couldn't you have just said anything here? There's situations like that that are going to happen. And then Beast of the Four Nations obviously remains a baffling situation. So, in the comments, let me know what your thoughts are on everything that we got here. So, like I said, surprisingly, Magpie Games, with like the starter set reveal here, with the, in a way, surprise reveal of the Republic City supplement, actually being the main like news reveal here. Other than that, not a lot that we didn't already know about, really, for the most part. Obviously, there's the Azula stuff to speculate on. She must confront her past, and will this be Azula's redemption? That's going to be a talking point coming out of this. Everyone, I think, is excited for this book, but again, what's the official description going to be? Is it going to say when it's set, or will we have to read the book to get that? You know, communication definitely could be better, even though you literally just had a panel where you communicated with fans. How you come out of that with people kind of confused is an impressive feat. So, yeah, let me know what your thoughts were on all of this news from New York Comic Con. Other than that, that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.